Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the program Issues in the News on Silverbird Television. My name is Victor Ita. Today on the program, we are looking at the 2027 general election. We're looking at the socio-political landscape of the nation. So we are taking a dive into the political build-up as we begin the countdown to the 2027 general election. If I were you, I'll pull no muscle, sit back and join us after this break as you get to meet our guests this afternoon as we look at these and other issues that made it into the news. See you after this break.
Stay informed, stay alert, stay ahead. This is not just news. This is context and clarity. Issues in the News takes you beyond headlines, breaking down the stories shaping the nation, exposing the facts behind the noise, and asking the hard questions others avoid. From politics to power, people to policy, and trends to truth, we go deeper so you see the full picture. Hosted by Victor Ita, this is your space for analysis, accountability, and understanding in a fast-moving world. Every Monday and Wednesday, 3 p.m. only on Silverbird Television. Issues in the News, where headlines hit and understanding begins.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it is Issues in the News on Silverbird Television. Victor Ita is here. And today, as I said earlier, we're looking at the 2027 general election. And we are looking at the socio-political landscape as we count down to the polls. Now, this is the polls that many would say that would push Nigeria or strengthen us democratically, or, lead us to a path that we would not love to get into as a nation. So joining us this afternoon to help us make sense of these and other issues that made it to the news is Professor Patu Tomi. It's a man that everybody would love to be like, young persons in Nigeria, I should say, and is an economist and a policy expert. Prof, good afternoon and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be able to join you.
Yes, Prof. Prof, the last time you came to the studio, we had a wonderful time on TV, and the review was very good. And it's based on that we say, okay, let's have this second bout and see how it goes. And then we also appeal that you put us in your calendar so that we need people like you to come over and help us understand what's going on nationally as we count down to the elections. What is your state of the nation as it stands now? A whole lot of issues from the court system. Many would say that the judiciary seems to have been weaponized, and the ADC having issues, the NDC also, dealing with issues. And then the APC, of course, after they released their National Assembly elections, primaries results, there have been internal issues with the APC. Of course, you are not a stranger to the phantom agency that was discovered. Has been running for some years in the country. So where do you want to start on? Let's stick on to your state of the nation, as it were, Prof.
Well, I'm speaking to you from Washington, D.C., and this weekend was 250th anniversary celebration of the United States. And of course, the freedom badge was very, very clear. Freedom. What is freedom? And how can we apply this concept to the situation that we face now? If there is anything that I like to say, it is that Nigeria is desperate to be free. Free from bad politics and bad politicians. Free from hunger, which is running like a wildfire through the land, even though those who speak for government dismiss it and say, where is the hunger? But I have IMF figures that show that the numbers have gone from about 20-something million, mid-20s millions of Nigerians in what is called food insecurity, which is really, literally, verge of starvation, to the numbers that will soon be released, 35 million Nigerians in food insecurity. I am in personal distress about the state of Nigeria. And what even frightens me more is that people who are political actors who are supposed to be fixing these problems are more obsessed with how to prevent elections from taking place so that they can continue in power than they are concerned about this state of the well-being of the Nigerian people. It is a tragedy, unfortunately, for our country that we are going through this kind of situation. But I'll let you be the one who picks and chooses which of the issues to focus on, because I can tell you, I lived through a civil war. I lived through military rule during which there were struggles, many of which I was in the middle of. I've lived through all kinds of difficult times. I'm not sure that we've ever had it so bad in Nigeria, really, honestly, and I speak without any partisan sense in it at all.
Right, so let's look at first. Let's stay with the 4th of July. The United States of America, is the 250th, and Donald Trump happens to be the president, 47th president, who is marking this 250th for the nation. Of course, we can look at the democratic gains as Americans, what they have enjoyed for 250 years. Of course, Nigeria, a journey of 1,000 miles, of course, they say begins with a step. How far do you think Nigeria is far from, institutionalizing democracy in the country? How far are we?
You used the most appropriate word there when you said institutionalizing. And this is really what worries me. I'm really a student of institutions and economic performance. That is a basic area of my work. 3 or 4 books I've written generally around the subject of institutional economic performance. And I always approach discussion of institutions with my own, if you will, self-confrontation. When the British historian Neil Ferguson wrote the book Civilization, the West versus the Rest, what he later called the 6 killer apps of Western power, he made what I thought was a very sweeping statement that the making of the US Constitution was perhaps the most profound exercise in institution building in human history. At first I said, no, come on, this is too sweeping a comment from a historian and all of that. But the more and more I study institution building, the more and more I study human progress, the more I feel that perhaps Neil Ferguson was right in that commentary. And if you follow the work that has been done in scholarship, whether it's in economics or in political science or in history, what you will find increasingly is a consensus that institutions are the greater or the greatest determinants of success in human history. Of course, I argue strongly for a place for culture and economic performance, human development in general, because values shape human progress. In my own work from a book titled Why Nations Are Poor, from many years ago, about I think 1996, I actually offered a framework to look at how progress takes place in the world. And the 6 critical variables in that framework are institutions, culture, human capital, policy choices, entrepreneurship, and these are independent variables. So in many ways, to understand progress, you have to understand all of these. What we are looking at Nigeria today is the undoing of progress. Class has systematically destroyed one of the most important institutions in how societies make progress, the guardian of the rule of law, the judiciary. A critical institution for progress is the rule of law and property rights. Thanks to capture, state capture of levels unprecedented in many places, we now have a Nigerian state that many people actually argue is a criminal enterprise that has effectively captured the judiciary, captured the legislature, and so in some cases even the media. And so our country is in deep crisis of proportions never before imagined possible. It is in the face of all of this, it seeks to go towards elections, and then you begin to hear of corruptions beyond parallel. I had the privilege of being in a small group that received briefings on the IMF Article 4 consultations. When I was living here in Washington just a little over a year ago, I actually engaged IMF officials who were trying to talk to stakeholders on the Article 4 consultation on Nigeria. And when I saw the report of how much is happening off budget, I recognize that in many countries you have some off budget activity.
But the minister, Prof, let me butt in a bit there. Two points I want to raise is that there's been concern, and some analysts are saying that, you know, anyone who would say, yes, you've mentioned the judiciary and you've talked about state capture, and you've mentioned that it happens to be one of the institutions that has been allegedly so captured. But people are now saying that anyone who believes that it is more than capturing, it is a weaponization of the judiciary, it is a weaponization of the institution of states. Do you share in the line of thought, school of thought that says that there is a total capture, weaponization of the judiciary? Where do you stand, Prof?
Well, my view is that it is a frightening situation. You know, for many years, I served on the boards of some South African companies. And in that role, most board meetings started with a look at the environment. And when it was felt that certain private business people had such influence on the Zuma government, the Zondo Commission capture was set up. And they made such a big deal of it. Every board meeting was about governing in a way that you would be sure that the organization did not get close to anything that could be considered part of state capture. And I used to laugh. I used to say to them, well, I mean, I love, you know, this. I am very, very much appreciative of this. But if you guys want to see state capture, come to Nigeria. And really, truly, what we have in Nigeria has been a weaponization of literally everything that can be to allow a small group to dominate society. A weaponization of poverty. I mean, I can tell you that there is a vested interest in people being poor so that politicians can give them 5,000 naira on election time because they are so desperate, they are so poor that for that moment they want something. It's not just that poverty has been weaponized, judiciary has been weaponized, used against. I mean, we have new descriptions of jurisprudence. I recently ran into one called Lifuprudence, which is exactly about the weaponization of the judiciary.
Let's speak to. Maybe you might want to, because maybe you might also add this to the list of institutions or policies that would, that might dovetail into tool of weaponization. The state police. Many analysts are saying, even I think Alhaji Atiku Abubakar of the ADC did say that there is a grand plan by the administration to weaponize the state police against perceived opponents, perceived enemies of the administration. Where do you stand with the state police? Of course, Prof, you would agree that insecurity is a menace in the society, that insecurity anywhere is insecurity everywhere, and that insecurity security should be local as politics is local. So therefore, that community police is some form of a panacea in fixing insecurity in Nigeria. So in answering the question, please consider this point I have also raised. Where do you stand with the state police proposal?
I stand clearly in support of state policing, and to say that when this conversation started years ago, some people went back to the fact that native authority police in northern Nigeria, for example, back in the early 60s, was used against opponents. And the argument I used to make against that perspective was, is the federal police not used against opponents? So why would local police being used be the reason not to have it? Of course, you walk around and find solutions to particular problems. Look, local policing in America was used against political opponents for many, many years during the civil rights struggles. What happened when America got very serious about trying to prevent that from happening was that the law made it such that once civil rights were involved, it had to be kicked up to the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigations. It did not stop policing from remaining a local function. I think that it's not even just state policing. I believe that policing should go down to community level, to every village being able to run its own vigilante force, authoritative vigilante force that can carry weapons, do everything policemen do. I mean, when I lived here as a graduate student in America in the 1970s, I lived in a small town in which the university had a police force, the city had a police force, the county in which the city belonged had a police force, and then of course the state troopers were there. So I do not believe in saying that because policing can be weaponized, that state policing. Security is best dealt with at a very, very local level. Yeah. So I support community-based or state-based police
so you don't have a problem. You don't have a problem with when it's implemented. Would you want it to be post 2027 election or pre 2027 election? Because some of those who are kicking against the policy is that it will be used against perceived enemies. It's for political reasons. So speak to this, and then
before you finish.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
Before you finish organizing the police force, the elections would have taken place anyway. If the law were passed tomorrow, before you recruit people, train them, who will be here already. And so you just deploy them day one. Most of those states already have some kind of vigilante state systems, which people say can be used against opponents. So if that is the problem, they can do that without a formal state police. So that should not be the excuse in terms of the timing of the state police force. What you need to do is have safeguards, just like I mentioned in the US. Once it is a civil rights thing, automatically it's a federal issue. So we should think more about the safeguards than trying to push back on a useful idea, because it could be abused. I think that's not the way that we should go.
Let's speak to, because of time, let's go to the Presidential Advisory Committee, now christened a phantom agency, the Prince Adeyemi. Yes, that is his name. I shouldn't have a problem remembering. I should have a problem remembering a con man's name. That is if indeed the guy is a con man. The administration says the guy is a con man, and that such agency never existed. But the agency swallowed 1.3 billion naira in the 2026 budget. The agency had requests to employ 314 staffer. The administration gave them approval to employ just 300, and the agency had office in the Federal Secretariat. You and I cannot just walk into Federal Secretariat and have offices there. What is really going on, Prof, in your view?
Well, Victor, with your help, I intend to take over the entire Federal Secretariat next month and put my people there. I hope you can facilitate it.
Prof, who am I? Who am I to do that? I'm not, you know, you and I know the channels, the bottlenecks that you have to go through in order to secure a space to even run an advert in that Federal Secretariat, even the one here in Lagos. So, Prof, who is this guy? Who are the people behind this guy? The allegations as well.
Should go back and read a book that I wrote in 2019. The book is titled Why Not? Citizenship, Creeping Fascism, and the Criminal Hijack of Politics in Nigeria. Look, I say this with a full sense of responsibility. I have watched the Nigerian state deteriorate and deteriorate and deteriorate. Many years ago, Mr. Fidelis Oyakilome, who's governor of Rivers State, police commissioner, I believe the first drug czar in Nigeria, he remarked that the time is coming when drug barons will take over politics in Nigeria, because politics is becoming more and more funded with money. The truth of the matter is that the Oyakileme vision, shall we call it that, or prophecy, very sadly has happened. Because the political class kept making money, politics, decent people whose purpose is to serve, have increasingly found entering the political arena problematic. And so we have had more and more and more, progressively more criminals, drug addicts, drug barons, 419ers dominate Nigerian politics. And with this as culture, the criminal hijack of politics is almost getting complete in Nigeria. And it is not surprising that things like this will be news of the day, because there are too many criminals now involved in policy, in the legislature.
Where are these criminals, Prof? You need to learn well. Where are the criminals? Are they in political parties in Nigeria? Are they in Asurok? Are they in public service? Are they in the civil service?
Everywhere you look.
Where are they?
They are there too. I say that everywhere in the system. When you bribe to be appointed, I mean, let us not make light of this Adeyemi indication that he bribed to be appointed to that position. 70% of people holding federal appointments today give somebody a bribe to get that position. Quote me, 70% at least gave a bribe. That's how bad Nigeria has become. And so if you bribe to get a position, I mean, just look at simple recruitment at the entry level.
Yes.
Into immigration, all these agencies.
Yes.
Go and find out how much bribes.
What have you? Yes.
Yes. Bribe everywhere. Look, the culture is in collapse. We need to rebuild our country completely. If not, we're gone. You know, there's a scholar called Jared Diamond. He's written a book, or he's written a couple of books.
Yes.
One of particular interest here is titled Collapse: How Societies Have Failed Through Human History. And really, ultimately, it is in the collapse of culture and the collapse of the values that societies ultimately fail to function and disappear.
Prof, I think I will need to put in a bribe. Since you have asked me that maybe I could find a way somehow have you get into the Federal Secretariat to take over the Federal Secretariat, let me put in a bribe that when you are in Nigeria, when you come back from Washington, D.C., meanwhile, when you see Donald Trump, say my hi to him. I couldn't wear a red tie to mark because I'm not a Republican. I'm a Democrat, however. So when you get back to Nigeria, I've bribed you on air so you come to the studios so that we can continue this, conclude this conversation, Prof. Do I have that? Will you accept the bribe?
No, I don't take bribes. You've not heard that. I don't take bribes. I have done it many. Look, let me end on this.
Quickly, sir.
Something years ago, a group from Convention on Business Integrity came to the Chamber of Commerce. I was a council member. And there's a book actually now out on this, written by Olusoji Apampa. Apampa has been executive director of CBI,
yes, Prof.
Now called Integrity Organization.
Time is not our friend, Prof. I tell you for free.
Anyway,
I will stop by and get that book, and I can assure you that we'll have a program on that very book, Prof.
I've never given a bribe. I've never taken one.
But I know I have your commitment to come here. I know I have that commitment, Prof.
Well, we'll talk about that, yes.
All right, Prof. Do enjoy your time in America. I know it's early in the morning there in America. Do enjoy your time, and please stay safe and go and watch football, though Nigeria is not there. See you when next we see you, Prof.
Okay, then.
All right, Nigerians, that's the size of our package. You've heard from Prof, an economist and a policy expert. He's told you where we stand as a nation. He's told you where we're supposed to be as a nation. You decide where we are going to be post-2027. I remain Victor Ita. I am done and I am gone. See you on Wednesday. God willing. Bye-bye.